Roger. What can we do to mitigate what appears to be an annual problem with police and fire overtime?
Good point. Thank you. We have on the police department what's called 3-man minimum manning, and that's in their contract, which means there has to be 3 men on duty at all times. Having that officer at the school will alleviate 2 problems. One, you'll have better security at the schools, and if you have 1 officer there all the time and the same officer, the children in the school will get to know this person, and hopefully problems that have happened in the past year or 2 years will be either found out earlier, or they may not even happen, which would be obviously very nice. But that officer will go towards the minimum manning. And if there is, say, a bad car accident on 3A, they can always pull this officer out of the school to go help out directing traffic or do whatever needs to be done at that time. The problem is there are not a lot of draws to Cohasset. We do not have the Quinn bill in the contract. The state has put a moratorium on the Quinn bill, which is a reimbursement for education for senior officers. And without that, these other towns, larger towns, Weymouth, Quincy, things like that, will draw off the state list a lot quicker than the town of Cohasset. There's really no reason to come to the town of Cohasset. You know, an officer's pay is an officer's pay, pension is pension, but if you don't have these other small perks, there's not a lot of room for advancement in Cohasset. There's some officers that have been there a long time, and they'll retire there, and so you'll be a patrolman or whatever, you know, whatever they're hired at for a long time before the advancements can be made.
So are you saying the way to avoid the fire and police overtime is to hire more policemen and firemen so that we won't have the need for overtime because there'll be enough people around?
We've tried that. With the fire department, it's a little more difficult. They have had two firemen that have been injured. So you're still paying them, but you have to fill their slots. And that creates the overtime. With the police, you need to get the minimum manning off and that's a negotiation that's going to be very, 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 very difficult to do.
Okay.
I think that one option to control overtime is to look at the trends over the last few years and see on manned hours required. If it is 3-man minimum and we have budgeted for 3-man, perhaps we need more men and more hours and straight time. And if that's the case, then we should figure out how to do that. One of the issues that you have, I think, right now is, from a safety perspective, is many of those employees don't live in Cohasset. In some cases, they actually live as far away as Halifax, and they have to come a great distance. For instance, if there's a snowstorm, many of the guys that come and plow the streets are a far distance away, and if they're called back in, the clock starts on them coming in, and they have to come in. It's also a dangerous situation. They have to drive in a snowstorm in order to come and do their job. I think that the town budgets in a certain way to control costs. I think one of the things that they do is they are very lean in terms of budgeting for overtime, so that overtime is realistic. I think we have wonderful chiefs, both of the police and the fire department, and we're very lucky to have them. If they had more money in the budget, there would be a little more freedom perhaps to spend it. And I think what the town has done is said, okay, here is your overtime pool. Do what you need to do because you are good and you are professional. And if you have issues, you come back to us. And I think that's where we are in a overtime situation. But from year to year, you don't know what that number is because you don't know what the needs are.
Roger, last word on overtime. Anything more?
All set. Thank you, Mark.